Hello and welcome to Patched. I'm your host, Paul James. Today I'm joined by Ryan Betson, filling the Matto spot. How's things, mate?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Very well. For anyone who's surprised by this, we did flag last week that
Me
Matto was
too.
going to be away. And, well, here's Ryan. We've got a fantastic replacement this week who's got plenty of games to discuss for our monthly updates episode.
Yeah, and I've been playing a handful, at least.
That's right.
At least a couple. So there's something to talk about.
I mean, we're both in a fortunate spot where we receive video games for review from time to time, and that gives us some
It
games
is a
there. You almost
very
feel
lovely
compelled.
life to leave, might add.
Oh, like, yeah, no, I won't say that now. That'll get me in trouble. So, yeah, that'll get me in a lot of trouble. Actually, I'll move on from that. It is that patched updates episode for the month, though. Before we really dive into the details, because it's only rare that you make a cameo on the Player 2 side of things. How are things going? What have you been up to? What's Pop C been doing?
In terms of
Wrestling
Pop C,
as well, of course.
Yeah, Pop C things are mostly the same. We're rapidly approaching episode 300 of For the Players, the Popculturists PlayStation podcast. So that's 6 weeks away or something, not even, until we hit the big 300. So that's going great. Max is doing awesome. Still checking out all the games as the best we can. Personally, from the wrestling side, like obviously the wrestling show's still not going, but I'm still around in the wrestling scene here in Melbourne. You can find
stepping
me
it up in the wrestling scene. Like I don't know much anything really about, especially the local scene. But just more and more, you're like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. I'm working with WWE Australia for the thing recently. Like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? He's just nailing it.
Yeah, so like I've got...
so don't sell yourself short.
I've got a couple of shows coming up for Deathmatch Down Under, which is our mutual friend Hawko.
Hawko
is big part of that company. So yeah,
somehow that man is a professional teacher.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Like it's like you, right? Like your weekend gig's very different to your day job, and same.
Well,
as
yeah,
Hawko.
but I'm not. I don't know.
Yeah, deathmatch wrestling.
Yeah, it's a bit different.
We've got to get you to a show at least once, and then just so we can say you've done it, and then I'll never ask you again.
Well, as long as Hawko's there, because then I need to dunk on him the whole time.
Oh. Well, I've got this coming weekend. So we're recording on a Saturday. This coming weekend, the last weekend of April, I have 3 shows. I have a show Friday, a show Saturday afternoon, and a show Sunday afternoon. So that's a lot. That's with Deathmatch Down Under and Heathen Combat coming from New Zealand, and a couple other like Renegades of Wrestling in May, which is another bigger company. But yeah, as you mentioned, I went up to Sydney to watch WrestleMania with the team over at WWE Australia and 2KANZ. So that was a ton of fun. I flew up left at 4 a.m, and then went straight to a bar, kind of just drank and watched wrestling all day. I got to make the WrestleMania broadcast. So I'm technically, officially a part of WrestleMania history. Yeah, and then I just flew back that afternoon.
Well, I mean, we won't lose sight of the fact that we've seen and someone who you and I have followed a lot over many years. Greg Miller has just made that jump from, well, he's still in video games. He's still one of the biggest figures in games, but he's now just creeping on over to the wrestling scene and pops up. He was a part of WrestleMania as well, wasn't he?
He was, because he's the host of a show called This Is Awesome. So he's deep into it now, which is great. Now I'm most certainly not that level, but that would be cool.
No, but you just step by step.
We'll wait and see what happens. Just with one of the companies I'm working for, the future does look pretty cool.
That's pretty sweet, man. And who knows, in the near future, the video game side of things might be the real kind of have to take the back seat. Max will be doing a show on his own if you keep going.
Yeah, no, it's kind of thing. I'm pretty confident we peaked a good number of years ago, 5 years ago in the game space.
The exact moment that I abused your audience with Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, and we have just coasted since. So it's good, and no one said anything yet.
Look, there's still the video games that you get along the way, and I guess that's maybe the segue for all that. As somehow amongst all the wrestling stuff and work and all those sorts of things, there's time for video games too. So what have you been playing lately?
Well, WWE 2K23.
Let's get it out of the way.
If you want to get good
blend it all together.
transition, that's how you do it. So that is one of the games I've been playing a lot of. So we kindly received a review code from the team over at 2K for WWE 2K23. And weirdly enough, the mode that I've been playing quite a lot of isn't like the main campaign, or My Rise as it's referred to in here. I've been playing this. It's called My GM mode. So GM
like
as a general
sort of
manager,
stuff, right?
yeah. So you essentially you pick a roster of wrestlers from a pool, and then you run a season. It's essentially fantasy football, but for wrestling. So every Thursday since it came out, myself, my partner Phoebe, and my mate Craig, we all come together and we essentially duke it out to run the most successful show. I'm currently in the lead, which I appreciate. Phoebe, my
You'd want
partner,
to be
who has
considering your stuff on the side.
very, very true. But like booking a wrestling show, as I quickly fix the my mic because
That's all right.
it's been weird.
Block your ears, everyone.
Yeah, that should be
It'll
right.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, there we go.
Shit.
Later. Oh, hey, I have a replacement one of these Maduvies over here. I don't know where the fuck that came from. But yeah, so in like a very fantasy football fashion, we have this fun where we're like, all right, well let's try book the show and let's see we can make the best wrestling experience we can. We're fine at it. Like it's one of those things. It's interesting when you reduce people simply down to numbers, and the same goes for like the likes of fantasy football, like
and teaching as it so happens.
Yeah, and it's it's like, oh, well, this would be a really cool story. The game's like, we don't care about that. What are their stats? How do they match up? I'm like, but this is such a boring idea of a match. And the game's like, that was brilliant. Like,
Did you enjoy yourself? We enjoyed ourselves.
Yeah, we'd enjoy ourselves. Like, this is objectively the best match based on numbers. But yeah, that's probably one of the things I've been spending the most from a weekly from a per week. Are we doing it backwards and forwards like me?
No, let's
do it that way. Let's go that. All right, your turn. Now.
All right, we'll throw it over me then. That's all right. We'll who knows? Maybe I'll bring the model back when Matto's here. Well, one of the first games that I kind of finished, like last time we recorded the updates, I was on the brink of finishing Wild Hearts, but hadn't been able to do so. I was hitting a bit of a barrier with a big tiger-like boss called, I think it was the Golden Tempest or something like that. That fucker, holy shit. Holy shit. As someone who's, in recent years started to get pretty familiar with these sorts of games, thanks to, Monster Hunter World really kicking it off, but Rise and playing my way through Wild Hearts without too many concerns at all of a sudden, holy shit, that thing just and it's one of the very final ones, and it was meant to be a step up in difficulty. It was probably imbalanced, and certainly when I started, checking out online forums and those things, that's the point I was starting to get to desperation wise, and even looking through my like friends lists and trophies to see, okay, who the fuck's finished this game. Saw Dylan Blight.
Who can I harass them? Yeah,
Dylan Blight was someone who I'd spotted, and I'd send him a message like, mate, I think I might need you to drag me through this thing. And then managed to crack it that night and like, oh no, take it back. But like, holy shit, there was a spike in that. The last, what was it? So there was 2-3 bosses at that particular point. I got a taste for the kind of the random matchmaking co-op through that one Golden Tempest thing. My hand was kind of forced, and from that point onwards, like, I'm just going to jump into the co-op here, like the random matchmaking. It was an absolute blast. You still paired up with randoms, no different to like Monster Hunter or anything like that, but it worked really, really well. There's crossplay when it comes to that, as opposed to what we see in the Monster Hunter games. Even Rise, now that it's come out to the big boy consoles as well, you can't crossplay between Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, nothing. It's just those native communities. So they're already, that's a big tick in the favor of Wild Hearts there. And it was just really pretty seamless. Once I worked out there was a few settings related things that I wasn't doing right when I was trying to matchmake in the first place, that was basically leaving me with no one and wondering who the fuck's still like, is there no one playing this game anymore? How? This thing's got crossplay, like there should be someone. Finally worked out that the mistake was all my own. And all of a sudden it was just like, I need help. Someone's there within 20 seconds. Awesome. It was kind of crazy, the number of people searching, especially for that Golden Tempest one. It was just, they were popping up everywhere. Whether it's people that had continue to get their ass kicked or whatever. I got a taste for a win at one point. I jumped into someone else's game, got through, doesn't allow that progress to come across to mine. Like, fuck, I need to do this again.
But But did
But
it teach you anything? Were you able to take lessons from that experience into yours?
no, it
Crap.
reminded me that I'm doing the right thing. It's just that I'm getting my ass kicked, or I just
Okay.
can't do it for long enough. That one mistake, just like, the thing is so OP that you take that one hit and it just decimates you. It doesn't
Okay.
necessarily finish you off, but like it just wipes out so many of your resources to get
It
yourself
doesn't go
back in an
well.
okay spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and now like I can go back and do it myself and that sort of thing. But I've got end game gear now, so it's kind of that balancing act that's a little bit trickier in that sort of sense. But such a good game. Like I'm really really hopeful that EA has seen dollar signs with this thing. Now obviously the way that the EA Originals thing works is that they only seek to get their money back, their investment back, and then the rest will go to, in this case, Koei Tecmo, which is a weird one that you kind of got publishers working together. That's a really weird one because it's not like it's some indie developer that's come out of nowhere. And, even like say Immortals of Avium, which we've both done previews on recently. It's a AAA sort of pedigree studio, but they're an independent one.
Yeah,
And they're giving
I
them a
think
platform.
with Koei, it may have been a circumstance of EA even being like, "Hey, we want to make something like this. We want to compete in that space," and they just poked around and they just happened to find someone and go, "Yeah, we'll give it a bell."
Yeah,
In the
yeah, it could
same
be.
way that like Koei have gone, we're looking, like, oh, we should probably do something that's kind of Souls Blood, is it? We got Neo, and they're, oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool. Or there's that, and I think, I think Koei just have this interesting skill set as a publisher to sort of be involved with these individuals that like all these teams that can just make weirdly good similar products.
yeah, yeah,
It,
yeah, exactly. No, you're right. They look at a Souls game, and they go, "Oh, we want to do that," or they look at Capcom and Monster Hunter, like, "We want to do that,"
mm,
and then they've got the talent to be able to, you know, at least come pretty close, which I think would be like I don't think Wild Hearts quite gets to the same level as Monster Hunter, but it's not that far off, and it's their first crack
yeah.
at it. So
Yeah, hence why I said like a similarity, right? It's in the same way that like where
Neo compared to
Blue
yeah,
Point's like skill set is literally remaking someone's game, like looking at it and like making the same thing better. Where Koei seem to have this skill set of like almost deconstructing something and going, well, we can make we can't quite get it, but we can get most of it. We get enough
yeah,
for you to get that feel, get that energy, and get a similar experience without a little sprinkle on it. Because like Neo's rad.
yeah. I mean, not my shtick,
Like you said,
but yeah, I
comparatively,
can
like
appreciate for what it is though.
in terms of the environment, it's like its mechanics, like I found it way more engaging than Dark Souls in a lot of ways, personally.
Yes, yeah, I'd agree with that. No, I'd agree with that. It still kicks my ass, and so I'm like, fuck
Oh
you
yeah, it's
guys,
still
move
yeah,
on.
yes,
But
still destroys me, but
but yeah, it's good shit. So I'm really hopeful that EA sees what they want to see from this, and that they want to actually maintain that relationship with Koei Tecmo for a Wild Hearts 2 or something like that down the line, or even if EA is not involved, but Koei Tecmo looks and goes, this was a worthwhile thing. Let's go around again, and maybe we self-publish or whatever. I don't know, like even how
yeah, it
the EA
depends on where the
original thing
IP
works,
lands, I suppose.
who kind of owns that. So I guess we'll wait and see. We'll throw it back
Well,
over to you though.
yeah, so for myself, one of the things that like, because obviously you and I haven't spoken on this show, like period,
In a long time.
so it's been a while since we worked. So since then, of course, PSVR 2 has dropped. So I've spent quite a bit of time in the headset here and there. I'll just run through some of them. I've been playing a lot of drums rock with my son,
Yep.
which is like a air drumming sort of thing. It's really cool concept. Shit, if you're a real drummer, because it makes you use a tom as a kick. This what should be a kick tom as they just use it as one with you hit with your
Use your
fingers.
hand.
There's no way to capture your
Register your
feet
feet,
movement, which is frustrating for me because I'm like, da-
Just get that going with it's time for PlayStation to get another peripheral. Just put a DDR style mat there for
yeah.
VR use.
Yeah, let me plug something in so if I smack the ground, it counts. And with that in mind, there's a game called Air Guitar Unplugged, which is essentially Guitar Hero, but like in VR, tons of fun. The one that's I've enjoyed the most is Across the Valley. So Across the Valley is a farm sim VR game. So like if you thought farming games were already boring, now you got to literally sow those seeds and water those plants. And to me, it's a further extension on
The Harvest Moon
what
story
I
series as
love,
well.
yeah, what I love about the farming games, which is that level of that zen. It's simple, it's repetitive, it's you focus on the one thing at the one time, and it's great for my ADHD brain, right? So like I go in and I go, well, I got to do today. I got to do this and cool. Next day, you know, and to me that's fun. And now I get to do a bit of the movement as well, and you know, it's not as simple as well. I'm just gonna do this. You know, if you don't spread the seeds accurately, your yield will be ineffective. When you go to weed it, if you happen to weed it wrong, you will lose some of your crops. Like, you know, you have to literally fling the cow poo with a shovel, which is fun. You got to, like, you know, virtually milk a cow, which I'm only sure looks hysterical from the outside.
Which I
it's
think I heard you talk about recently, James, as in your son. I think
mm,
wasn't he watching you play at some point?
yeah.
So did he have anything to say when you were virtually squeezing some cow?
There were chuckles. He's like, "Are you milking a cow?" I'm like, "Yeah." Um, so that like that's
Get all up close and look, mate. And you just close your head there, and you can see it on the screen.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's a very simplified like very simplified version of like say Story of Seasons. There's certainly no like a relationship manager or any you know large crops or anything fancy. It is very simple because I think they knew that there's only so much you could do. It's very early. Like there has been quite a substantial amount of like updates, but I'm not quite sure what the scope is in terms of making it bigger and more in depth. Because it is quite a small independent team. So there is like a limit to what they can do. Outside of that, Horizon Call of the Mountain, which I played once, and then I was like, oh, I should go back to that, and then I didn't.
I still need to start it. Thanks, PlayStation. I still haven't started.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, like I checked up.
Really looking forward to doing so. Just to be crystal clear.
Oh, absolutely.
Just
and the time that I enjoyed with it was really fun. Has a absolute blast.
I mean, the only trick for me is
distracted.
The only trick for me when it comes to that, and a lot of the VR stuff lately, is there's still a bit of a backlog of games that I need to go through. Air Guitar's one example, Beyond the Valley's another one, Horizon's another. There's a couple others on top of it that very kindly been sent by a whole range of different developers and publishers. And I've been in touch with basically all of them over the course of the last month in particular. Like, it's taken a little bit longer. Firstly, I had about 13 different VR games to review almost out the gate, but also mental health was in the bin towards the back end of, or through the majority of March. So it was really a case of, like, I just need, and it'll segue into a lot of my games that I'll talk about eventually. But I really needed, like, I wanted to keep playing stuff, but I wasn't in the position to really play anything that wasn't comfort food sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Something that was going to be right and good for my health. Which again will lead to some of the games that I'll talk about shortly, but it just meant that the VR kind of had to just sit back for a while. Like, I didn't want to immerse myself on that sort of level. I really wanted to be able to take a step back, maybe listen to a podcast while I'm playing a game. I would have you guys in my ears sometimes while I was playing Octopath, which I'll talk about shortly, or whatever the case happened to be. Something I could just go about my business, enjoy, and not have to be too immersed and thinking too deeply about.
Well, what are some of those games? What have you been?
Well, I guess we can segue back over to me then. Is there anything that you want? Other VR?
Oh no, the only thing I talked about was playing Resident Evil Village, and like it's awesome and it's intense and it's like intricate in that you've got to like properly tinker around with your gun and whatnot, which is a lot of fun. But I did the whole opening area, right? Yeah. Like, it's all when you get confronted by all the werewolves and like not a single bit of motion sickness. And then the second that whole scenario ends, the character just steps up and I went, huh! And then my insides went up into my brain and then I had to like lay down. It was insane. I was like, I got to take this off because I'm pretty sure I'm going to vom. And it's the first time it's ever really happened like that. So that was weird.
So naturally you're going to jump into Gran Turismo 7 after this.
Oh, not a chance.
So I guess in terms of some of the mental health stuff, one of the things I found myself gravitating towards over the course of that month was Power Wash Simulator.
Just that real calming sort of
thing, but it's very clear and easy what you're achieving. Even the way the game indicates, okay, this wheel on the car is done. It'll blink at you when it's finished. You've got a big list there of all the different things that you can work through. So I can just chip away at it. And so it was one of those sort of games. I'm in a much better place now, but like it's still now I'm deep enough into it. Like, I want to go through all these campaign things and tick them all off. I want to check out the Final Fantasy VII remake content that they just added as a free update into it. which was cool. There's even some Tomb Raider free update content they put in there as well.
Yeah, if you power wash the Croft Manor.
Yeah, so pretty keen to
just power wash that butler into the freezer.
Just blow him away. So like that was a really, really good thing for me for over the course of a good week or so. Wife would walk through and she'd go, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I need it now."
Well, it's interesting that you say that because it's weird how some of those games can sort of pull you in. Like there's one that I saw on sale on the PlayStation, so it's Gas Station Simulator.
Oh yeah, okay. Just filling up.
It's literally the idea. The idea is you build and create like a gas station in the middle of presumably like the Arizona-y sort of desert, right?
Yeah, it'd have to be the US for them to be calling it gas.
Yes, but people would come in and you fill them up and you fix their cars and then you send them on their way, and it has that. Also have that
petrol in their car too.
Yeah, maybe. No promises. Yeah, you get to all that, like, this very similar, that kind of like Zen monotony sort of like, oh, cool, let's just see what this one is. And then I got an email the other day to being like, hey, we're essentially building like Roadside Diner Simulator and it's going to talk to that game. I'm like, oh, that's amazing.
The games will connect.
Yeah.
Like your data carries somehow, and like this is the next Mass Effect.
Yes. It's essentially the Metal Gear Solid where it reads your memory card.
So you've been playing gas station simulator.
I can see you have a gas station. Yes. I don't know how that'll help your Roadside Diner,
it just drops out of the sky and lands in the.
And it's there. But no, I get you in terms of that as well. Like I've been playing a lot of. I had been playing a lot of Tools Up, which was very similar to Overcooked and Moving Out. But unlike the other two, this is more like, hey, go in and, redecorate these houses. You have a time limit, you have things. And I was like, I would just play it to feel like you said, I need something simple, something easy, something light and charming.
And you know it pretty well as well, because you're a big advocate for that game as well. So.
Oh, big time. And like, I'd already finished it. But like I'd never 3-starred them all. There was one level that just gave me grief back in the day. And I was like, well, I'm just going to start the game again from scratch. And I'm going to get 3 stars on all of them. And I did. So every day before work, I'd do a couple levels because they don't take all that long. And I'd go to work. And just sort of... So I totally get where you're coming from with the Power Simulator stuff, though.
Yeah. And I guess... No, actually, I'll throw it back over to you.
I kind of did with Tools Up. So I technically brought it back and then I threw it back to you.
Well played. I guess continuing down that sort of trend of kind of the stuff that was good for the well-being. Thanks to Bandai Namco Australia and Square Enix, in both of these cases, the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters come out. I've only just really started dabbling with that. I've really only played the original Final Fantasy long enough for a player 2 plays on it so far, because I'm also juggling Octopath Traveler 2, as I kind of briefly touched on before. Both of those just being that very traditional JRPG, something I've been playing since I was like 4 years old, and just know like the back of my hand, and I can kind of tune out like, oh, I need to grind for a little bit, I need to get myself to level whatever so that I'm good for these missions, or comfortably good for these missions. Great. I can just spend an hour or two just bashing my way through this, no real issues at all, listen to a podcast, whatever it is I need to do. The music's great, and so a lot of it's been through remote play, so I can listen to the podcast but I can still hear the music in the background. It's just been and remote play, and I can watch the footy at the same time, or whatever the case happens, but like just the perfect sort of thing. So at this point, or as of the time of recording it, there's 8 different characters' stories that you got to play through over the course of 3, 4, 5 different chapters for the different characters. And I've now finished two of the 8. Everyone else is like on to their final mission, so they're all basically ready to just start falling like dominoes at this particular point. So I'm just going to start chipping away at them bit by bit over the course of maybe the next week or so, one a day, just to finish those up. There are some little kind of overall stories that, okay, they've all been brought together. Now you kind of bring it all to a close, I guess, on a grand scale. I actually don't know how they plan to do that yet, because that will only unlock once I finish each of the 8 stories. So I'm looking forward to kind of dabbling in that and just knocking it out maybe one a day for the next little while, because those final missions will probably take me maybe an hour each, I would have thought. A bit more depending on how much the boss battle is going to cause me some grief. So yeah, there's kind of that combination of 2 JRPGs there that have just been like, and that old school JRPG that is exactly what I've needed. I'm not at the point necessarily where I need them anymore for kind of the mental health side of things, but now I'm deep down the well, and like I love me that sort of JRPG, so I'm just going to keep going. Well, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And so things like, I mean, you obviously touched on Resident Evil. That can sit on the back burner for a little while. We're starting to get to a point where the big sort of May or like end of April, May releases are starting to pop off, and codes are starting to fly in for those. And you know, everything that I've kind of done up to this point has now left me in a good position to tackle Star Wars or to tackle Zelda or to tackle. Oh no, Suicide Squad's finally been delayed. What else is coming out in May? I'm having a brain fart. I'm sure there was something else out in May that I was kind of interested. Oh, Redfall, hell, even AFL 23.
Oh yeah.
Lord of the Rings Gollum, which will I don't know, could be a turd still, but you know, we'll see what happens.
Probably.
And assuming work doesn't come along and completely fuck up my headspace like it did, then it's, you know, I've had a great time and it's done exactly what I needed to do to get myself into a pretty good frame of mind again. And also, like I've mentioned, remote play. I've been shilling it a lot in like our chat that is like you, me, Max, and Joel Grolton. But holy shit, remote play is just the best thing.
Yeah, as long as you're playing games like Final Fantasy that it's any sort of real turn-based that don't require that twitch, they're beautiful. Like I've sat in bed and done my WWE like, you know, GM mode because it's just choices. There's no timing. It's just, you know, it's brilliant.
I did mention in that chat the other day, and so the timing of it was, I'd only done remote play from home because I hadn't been away from home enough to justify using it in any other context. Because the game, like remote play, does support via data or even from one Wi-Fi over to my own Wi-Fi that the PlayStation's connected to. And I tried both of those in the last week because I had a little trip over to Phillip Island with the family. And I played Horizon via 5G just to get myself back in the headspace. There was zero issues.
Awesome. Not
a single, like, I would press button, I would hit, wouldn't suddenly, oh shit, I've just been, you know that little stutter that you might get and suddenly you're out of place. There was none of it. It felt one-to-one. It's obviously not, like there will be the tiniest little bit of latency there, but it felt one-to-one. So you wouldn't want to do it if you were in like a competitive game still.
Yeah,
but
like you wouldn't want to play like
the controller and the game only. There was no dramas, and that was via 5G. It would dip to 4G at points because, as I mentioned to you guys over there, the only spot that I had reliably had 5G was in the shitter. So it was at that point where I started digging around, like, fuck, I need to find some Wi-Fi stuff, and sure enough,
I didn't find a reason to poo. Yeah,
well, that too. But then found the 5G, the Wi-Fi password for the place, and then connected Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi, and no issues there either. So I am like, and it links to a conversation that Matto and I had recently on Patch, and you would have done on FTP as well about this Q Lite rumored thing. I'm all in on it.
I would be certainly considering it. I don't use it as much.
Especially if it means I don't have to rely on this. Maybe to set up a hotspot if I'm outside, you know, not connected to a Wi-Fi at the time, then sure, that's about the only reason. But great, it still gives me my phone back, which is kind of the main concern I've got with the whole thing at the moment is, like, you know, remote play drains your phone.
And it prevents you from doing other things your phone should be using.
And if you are away from home and you go to, you know, you flick over because someone sent you a message or someone calls you,
it kills the connection.
It kills the connection. And then especially if you're away from home and you're not connected to a Wi-Fi, if you're not connected to the same Wi-Fi that your PlayStation is on, so regardless of whether it's 5G or another Wi-Fi network, it takes a long time to reconnect because it's you know, establishing the connection, it's making sure that it's stable on both sides, all that sort of stuff. It's, you know, it's about 2 minutes rather than 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's
that you might get at home. So you don't necessarily. I'd see messages coming through. I'm like, is that important? Nah, ignore it. Is that important? Nah, ignore it. Not to mention, even when those, like on your phone, when those messages do come through and the notification pops up, it does create a little stutter in the game, which I didn't enjoy either. Worked okay for something like Octopath, but that could, you know, I didn't have that experience when I was playing Horizon, but it could absolutely destroy what I'm going for in a Horizon or something like that.
Most definitely.
I'd love to have a dedicated device because it just takes all the heat off my phone. So I'm all in now, having spent a lot of time with remote play previously, using the backbone and that sort of thing, but from home. But now having taken that on the road, exploring what it's like with different Wi-Fi's with 5G, that technology's good to go. Yeah.
It's not too bad. Speaking of Horizon, though, so both you and I received codes this week as you drink out of the well-placed drink bottle.
I knew it was coming, so I'd already swung the...
the DLC for Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores. So you haven't booted it up yet. I
Not yet.
myself have been playing Horizon over the week just to get myself back into the loop. And I've put like 35-ish minutes into the campaign in of itself. So this is not spoilers, it's just how it sets up. So you go and you meet Silence over at the mansion of Tilda, who the character played by Carrie-Anne Moss. And he's like, hey, there's a fucking thing over at a place that's called the Burning Shores. You remember the people that we talked about over here? Because these are actually spoilers, so I won't touch
Yeah,
them.
yeah, we'll try
You
and
know, these
avoid those.
people that we talked about over here? Yeah, well, they have another person that's from them, and they're over there. So go there. And then there's like no, like you just kind of get on your Sunwing and you just fly over, and then there it is. And then it's a whole new area to fuck around in. I don't think you can just fly to and from them easily. Like I'm there now, and I've just got to finish everything, which absolutely makes sense from from the information that was given. It was like, excuse me,
No,
you
you're right.
must finish the campaign first because you need all this stuff to know what happens next. So like if I was kind of just tinkering around in side quests and whatnot over there. So I guess I'll have to finish this area before I then go back to try tinker some more. But this DLC is on PS5 only, which is interesting. Um, it
They must
looks
have had some
good.
data. They must have had some data.
I guarantee you they had. Like they're like, oh well, we're not seeing that much conversion over on PlayStation 4. This is put on PS5, and even then, they originally were going to make it just PS5,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
then, then they backtracked. So like they're like, well, fuck them. As essentially, it's like we're now in that moment where they need to shit or get off the pot when it comes to this next generation. So
and
they're
they have.
actively doing that now,
Yeah,
which is very very good. But yeah, so you meet this new character in the area of LA. It's all across the
yeah.
marketing.
You
So
can see the
there's
Hollywood sign and all that sort of stuff.
yeah,
So
I haven't found that yet, but so far a lot of the robots are the same. I haven't seen any new robots yet. I'm keen to see new robots if there are. I
I
just like
believe there's
saying
meant to be.
I just like saying robots. But yeah, if there might be some new ones. That'd be pretty cool. But it's one of those things where like what took me back really quickly is when I first booted up Forbidden West, because both you and I played it substantially
Yeah,
early from memory.
pre-launch. Yeah, that was very PlayStation. Thank you,
Yeah,
and for
thank
the
you.
code for
Wow.
Burning Shores as well.
I'm such a fan. It's a mom, like appreciate it. Uh, it's one of those things where like the game is so high fidelity. There is so much just packed in the screen wherever you look. Like the high resolution of all like the even just the quantity of foliage in the area. It's
Yeah,
almost like overstimulating. You're like, oh wow,
it's
there's
super dense.
this so much to look at any given moment. And so I did have to recondition myself to look at the environment. So it's one of those things where I guess now I'm probably consciously ignoring half of it, which is weird because then why would you put that much effort in when you're then that the player will consciously ignore it? It's a weird choice. But, there are
Yeah,
moments like, like when this DLC opens and you're flying across the water and you're like, this is stunning.
yeah.
Like it
I've
is
seen some little clips of people kind of flying their Sunwings around and just kind of taking it all in. I think it was oh shit. He shares deals and discounts all the time. Shinobi
yeah,
on Twitter. I saw him put a little clip up there, and I was just completely blown away by that. And that
it
was
is it
scaled and shit on the Twitter app.
yeah, it is unquestionably one of the prettiest games on the PlayStation 5.
Or
Um,
anyway, really.
Anywhere, yeah, fucking, it's so insane. It's insanely good, and Aloy's still interesting, and of course, Silence plays a big role in this. The recently passed Lance Reddick. Um, no, the DLC is very cool, and I'm keen to get more into it because even just stylistically, it's very different already. Because if you remember, it's not really major spoilers. For the Forbidden West, is the East Coast has kind of got lost in water. So like what was previously like Las Vegas, Nevada, a desert is now a desert of water. Like it is
Yep.
just ocean. So you have to fly over the ocean to get to the likes of LA. So it's very bright, it's very colorful, it's like obviously very beachy, very tropical, which is tons of fun. Speaking of tropical though, like I don't think you've touched yet either. A review code came through for Dead Island, which
Oh
two,
no, I
which is
dabbled with it because
also
I've put
sent
together.
in set in in LA?
I did. I played it a little bit for player two plays and a little bit beyond that, just to see if it was going to be for me. And I quite enjoyed my time with it, but I've spent probably no more than an hour so far.
Oh, okay.
And people can see the majority of that hour on the YouTube channel as it is. So.
Yeah, well, then what else have you been playing? Well, like, have you got more to that list then?
There's only two more for me. Curse of the Sea Rats, which was a game that I backed on Kickstarter a few years back. It's a 2D Ratroidvania, as they tried to call it, but it's a Metroidvania. In the end, it's perfectly fine. There's lots and lots of good things about it, and then there was just some real basic quality of life things that were just missing. In terms of like the way maps work, they don't. And all of that sort of stuff was just really kind of ham-fisted, and it was the things that you felt like, oh, you're making a Metroidvania, great, these are just staples, and then hopefully your boss design and all that sort of stuff is good around it. Well, all the stuff around it was good, but the core pillars were a little bit botched. So it was a bit disappointing in that sense. It's the perfect like 6 or 7 out of 10 sort of game.
Okay.
Not disappointed that I played it. Like, I still had a good time, but it was just some of the obvious things that I was shocked that they didn't nail. Like, quest markers or even like somewhere in the menus, like, here's all the different active things that you've got, even if they don't put a neon sign on the map for you and say, here, you got to go here, because then maybe the idea is it's a bit too handholdy. But to not even list them just means that like if I've gone away for a couple of days and come back, I've got no idea what I'm doing.
It's the same problem that I have with Elden Ring, right? It's like, we need to remember and write all these things down. I'm like, fuck you. No, I don't.
No, that's what your job is, developer.
Yeah. It's not 1985. We can, we games have come a long way since then.
Yeah. So there's that. And the other one, I guess, continuing that Metroidvania sort of trend, is a game that Max was bemused by when he saw me playing it, a game called Romancelvania.
Yeah.
Which is like a piss-takey dating sim, but crossed with a really solid Metroidvania. Like, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Again, a game that I actually backed on Kickstarter, and had the developers on Dev Diary for. So, grain of salt, whatever you want, people, for both that and Curse of the Sea Rats. But like, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying it more than I enjoyed Curse of the Sea Rats. It's just, I'm just not as far into it so far. Yeah. So, looking forward to doing so. But it's for a lot of those games, and even things like Resident Evil and stuff that I haven't gotten to, there was the combination of the mental health for a while there that just didn't have me in the right place to play them. And now, even at the time when Horizon's code comes in, and codes for pixel remasters and all those sort of things start rolling in, and within the same 24 hours, a game for Redacted came in, and that.
Oh man, how unable to express your emotions are you for Redacted? I am neither. I am quite neutral about the acquisition of Redacted.
I have no opinions on the Redacted game, but you will hear my opinions in due course. Maybe by about Anzac Day, Wednesday next week, something like that.
Possible.
For the game that I cannot speak about and have no feelings to express about either.
He feels neither one way or the other.
Yeah. We're done. So, I mean, that's I've outside of kind of dabbling with Metroid Prime a little bit further again, just on the Switch, just chipping away at it. And I picked up Advance Wars today for the Switch as well, nice. which will probably be good again. Would have been a perfect game for me about 2.5 weeks ago to really dive into, but I think I'll still be keen to check it out because I never actually played them back in the day. That's actually more or less me done. Are there any other games that you wanted to discuss?
Well, I'll throw my final couple together. So my son's 6, as you know, and many.
And he's a little legend.
He's a little rad dude. So he's recently started getting a lot into gaming as well. So he and I have been playing a lot of games together. One of them being Minecraft, because it's a great one. So he and I have our own little world that we have. So he and his mother and I separated a while ago. So this is our way of connecting when he's not at my house, which is absolutely amazing. So apart from it just being a great way for us to play, it's also
wait a few years until you're playing like more competitive games together, and you see "fuck you, Dad" coming through the as he takes you down in a shooter of some sort.
I can't wait to call him a little shit or something. You know what I mean? Like, so this has been a really great way for me to be there without being there. And that in itself has been an absolute just a savior. And then by extension from that, we've been doing Minecraft Dungeons, which sucks ass. Comparatively, it's like a really subpar Diablo. And the one that we've pulled out of the ether, just because we're going through my library, it's like, well, what's something we can play? Unravel.
Oh yeah,
Now,
yeah.
yeah, I could have thrown this in earlier when we were
Yanni.
talking about all the EA play stuff, the EA originals. But yeah, Yanni is a team. So the second one has built-in multiplayer,
Yeah, co-op is
and
pretty great.
so he and I have been playing co-op and working it out and solving the puzzles and stuff together. And like that one's local only. There's no online, but that's fun. Like we've just been traversing, solving puzzles, and having a really good time. And it's just there's no like I know like your eldest is not
We're not quite
quite
there yet.
quite there yet, but I can tell you, man, it is one of the greatest things that you can do. So like I'm very very lucky in terms of the things that I'm most passionate about in this world, which are like my son, PlayStation, and wrestling.
Do it so.
He they all kind of work hand in hand in a really nice way, which has been really good. So my son enjoys wrestling, enough to entertain me, I guess, and he loves playing games, and it's really cool to be able to have all those things come together and be able to just truly enjoy them with him, and he just gets so excited to play, and he got his own little Spider-Man headset for Easter, so he can play with the headset at his house, and all these little details just makes it a lot more personable and fun for him. And it's so good.
Yeah, man,
So good.
that's awesome. Certainly something I'm looking forward to is getting to either sit down side by side or whatever, like, or just no,
Other ends of the house or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever the scenario ends up being over the course of the next few years as he's growing up, where like when it's especially at the very beginning, it's sitting side by side, and I'm 100% like going to be the dad's like, you need to appreciate this shit. We're playing 2D Mario to begin.
Oh no, we'll play with it. Like there's been times he's like, "Can I play Mario?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah,
We just kind of like we see. It's one of those. You and I both were very lucky. We're in this position where like we have access to most games, or at least for the last say 6 years plus. Like any major game of note, we have access to.
Yeah,
So we can just go. Oh, about this game? I'm like, yeah, all right, and then we just pull it from the download list or pull the disc out off the shelf, or and it makes it really super easy for them to play whatever they'd like.
Yeah, it's a nice luxury in that sense, and certainly something I hope that James, in your case, my kids thoroughly kind of enjoy reaping the benefits of as the
and then maybe even
progress.
one day like we'll pass it down, and then in X amount of years, patched will be run by our boys.
I'm gonna
Like for the players, like episode like 800, like I'm not in it anymore, and but it's been passed down to my son and maybe Max's kids. Like that'd be a fucking laugh.
And you watch it; they'll be like dominating. The traffic will be huge, and be like, "What
Oh, they'll be
have
way
you guys
better
been
than us.
doing the
Yeah,
whole time? What the hell's going on here?"
guaranteed.
And it's just because they're doing like flossing in the background and that sort of stuff, and so the little Fortnite dorks are going, "Yeah, click through." No, I don't care how you get the numbers. You're getting the numbers, so let's stick around. It's good shit. So as we start to wrap things up, what do you see yourself playing over the course of the next month? Obviously, rattled off a few games before, but is there anything that's on the horizon for you outside of Horizon?
Horizon, yeah, Horizon's probably the most closest one. Star Wars Jedi Survivor's got my interest. I really enjoyed Fallen Order, except I do still find this narrative end of that game a bag of dick, where it's like, hey, you spend the entire game finding this MacGuffin. You've got the MacGuffin, and MacGuffin means nothing. But then why the fuck did we do anything? But thankfully, the gameplay is so tight. And I just love Star Wars. Even through all the bullshit that Star Wars exists in, I still love it. To be able to play more of that would be ideal.
Yeah, big game for me too, keen.
I'm not really sure because I kind of keep myself at like a couple of weeks. I'll just like pop open VG 24/7. Like, what games are coming out? Let's have a look. Oh, okay, cool. I'll email that person. Oh, yeah, cool. Whatever. Keep an eye out for that. But no, I'm just sort of play it relatively by ear. It's probably the most closest one that's got me excited, and knowing that I do have a number of games on in the reserves that I should go back to or play more if it does happen to go quiet. Like I know I'll be able to sprinkle my time in elsewhere. And obviously with myself playing primarily on PlayStation, My pool is a little bit smaller to select from. So like I guarantee with your list you'll have the likes of Zelda, etc., which I couldn't give a flying fuck about because the first game is mid at best.
Don't
So
worry, no, I'm 100% with you when it comes to my thoughts on Breath of the Wild. It's just, I feel, I mean, as a Zelda fan from, I mean, again, that was one of the ones I was playing when I was like 4 or whatever with Link to the Past. And so the deep-seated love when it comes to Zelda. Being disappointed by the fact that Breath of the Wild is absolutely not a Zelda game. And I don't know, I'm torn over this one. Matto and I regularly riff on Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom because they're just not Zelda games, and then like they've got the stamina thing which you don't like, they've got the weapon degradation we don't like, but then they're teasing the possibility that maybe dungeons are back, which is a bit like that is a big
that's
tick.
cool, but like can they help the fact that the game is just empty?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, it's all this wide open space with nothing. Like, if we talk about, like, Horizon had this intense level of foliage. Like, you look over at, you know, the video for Tears of the Kingdom, or even go back and play Breath of the Wild, and there's just fucking nothing.
A lot of empty space.
Yeah, you look over at the last Pokemon games. Oh, cool, nothing.
Yeah.
So you can replicate these large worlds, but there's nothing to fill them because the stupid Switch simply cannot power them.
Yeah, it's a weird one. For me, like I can kind of deal with that part of it, because when they put something in there, it's, you know, really exciting and engaging.
In theory, it makes what they put in their count, but
yeah, they've kind of adopted The Witcher every 30 seconds. We want to give you something to do, and they do that, but then the gap in between those 30 seconds is just empty, completely and utterly empty.
Yeah.
I can deal with that. I can deal with the stamina thing. I can't deal with weapon degradation. And so this mechanic where you can kind of fuse random things together does kind of help in that sense. Like, oh, great, in a pinch, my sword's just broken. That gives me the shits. But also, there's this stick. Here's a rock. I can just merge them together using this crazy tech, and all of a sudden, I've got a hammer that I can now continue wailing stuff. Like, I'm not completely decimated now, unable to play in a way that I'm happy to play. So, when you combine that system being there, the fusing, and the tease that looks like dungeons are back, that might be enough ticks in the right boxes for me to be like, cool, I'm in, and I can kind of overlook those things that I don't like. But we'll have to wait and see. I won't be reviewing the game because I don't think I can go into it and be impartial. There's too many things there that I already don't like about it coming along that I may just dunk on it and be a bit unfair.
It is one of those things where if it does come through and deliver, then success.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to be won over. And who knows, maybe there's things about it that I really enjoy that will then just help me going back to, like, you know, the possibility of going back to Breath of the Wild and actually enjoying it in a way that I didn't before. So it could have been a time and place thing in part. I don't know. We'll wait and see. That's really close. Keen to try out Redfall on the Xbox side of things. And
yeah, so I've just pulled up VG247 to see if there's any that jump out at me.
Like, I'll play AFL 23 because I'm kind of compelled to these days, being firstly the AFL guy on the Player 2 team, but also the fact that I now do AFL content as well.
I do love, like in the same way that I've have successfully pierced the wrestling scene alongside games. You've done the same thing with footy, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I was just kind of hanging out with Christian Petrarca and stuff at the
I don't know who that is, but I assume it's good.
The cover athlete for the game and one of the best players in the comp, like him and a whole bunch of others, were just there for the AFL 23 launch event, which was funny then because then the game got delayed as a result. Following that night, it was weird. And then we touched on Lord of the Rings Golem. There's a game called Miasma Chronicles, which is a 505 game, but it comes from the team who did it's just gone on me. It was a very XCOM style turn-based tactical sort of thing, but a whole bunch of animals. Mutant Year Zero. Oh,
Mutant Year Zero. Yeah, it's based on that's a TRPG game. Literally, it's a role-playing game.
Comes from new game from that team. So
awesome.
And that's out this month as well. So keen to check those out. And I'm sure there'll be other things that'll pop up. There's Star Wars, as you mentioned. There's Last Case of Benedict Fox, which comes to Xbox this week. And then things like we've already discussed: Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. Keen to get to it. Advance Wars. Keen to get to it. So plenty to keep me busy. Any others for you as you've gone through that VG?
Well, the only one that jumped out to me was Cook Serve Forever, but that's a PC early access.
Those PC dorks to try and work that one out.
Yeah, I'll let them suss it out, and then I'll play it once it gets good and comes to console.
Exactly.
Because I do love those Cook Serve Delicious franchise. I think it's absolutely stupid, and I love it.
You're a bit of a stand for that one, but that's all right. All good. Well, Betson, we'll wrap this one up. Where should people go and check out all your stuff? We touched on it at the beginning of the show, but we'll make sure to give you a good plug at the end too.
Yeah, if you want to check me out, you can follow me over at the Popculturists, YouTube, and your podcast service of choice, where we have our weekly show called For the Players, the Popculturists PlayStation podcast. One of the top 3 PlayStation podcasts made in the country. There's only 3 of us, so it's super easy to be on that list. But yeah, so if you want to come see a show that's dripping full of personality, PlayStation, and individuals with literal years in the industry, and we can talk shit but also back up with years of knowledge and understanding. Outside of that, you can find me on Twitter at HaggardMC, HAGGARDMC. And as I've just recently been made redundant, if you want to hire me, please reach out to me. It'd be much appreciated.
Yeah, we kind of touched on redundancies before, and I didn't know where we were going to go with that sort of thing, so I left it completely.
I have no choice but to fucking make fun of it. So if you want someone that works in youth mental health and was able to create a program that uses video games as therapy to help those individuals, hire me. Because the company that I made it for don't seem to value me. So that's cool. I'll do it for someone else instead. Hit me up.
And check out all the wrestling content as well. All the different shows that are coming up, as you touched on before.
Oh yeah, please come check out Deathmatch Down Under if you're here in Melbourne. Also, the Renegades of Wrestling. They're the 2 that I'm working for at the most. So yeah, come see us around the Melbourne area.
Awesome. On the Player 2 side, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all the usual stuff there. Visit the website, player2.net.au. There is the Patreon. Thanks to Ryan, that is like across all the different, and this is, I guess, publicly now in video form, the first time I can properly acknowledge it. The awesome look for the Player 2 Plays videos these days, that's all down to you and what you put together. It was really, really great. It looks fantastic. We're thrilled that you put in that work for us. Super appreciative, man. Make sure to check out the Patreon though, and as you know, Ryan's mentioned, there's Twitter as well. You mentioned Haggard MC for yourself, Paul James Games for myself, and the website's Player2AU. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Ryan, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. It's been awesome to do something with you again. And hopefully I'll pop up on some FTP stuff in the near future. Max has decided the show's not worth his time for a couple of weeks. I don't know, moving house. Maybe I'll just roll along for episode 300 and kick him out. It'll be the glorious takeover moment that we've all been waiting for.
Yeah, well, one of the things we were thinking about hitting up old Josh Saunders, getting him out of retirement. Cool. Just get him out of retirement every 100 episodes. He's the original host, for those that don't know, alongside myself. Yeah, we just kind of pull him out whenever we need to.
Exactly right. Just get those dusty bones out of the closet. Yeah. It'll be great. He's
like
awesome, and I look forward to it.
Make it a footy reference. It's like that older Ablett. You just kind of will him out occasionally. He's like, yeah, and then you just kind of will him off again. And
now he goes to sue the competition for having severe concussions over the journey and brain conditions as a result.
Please don't sue me.
It could be that, or it could be the excessive amount of drugs that he took while he was playing in his AFL career. True. So, I don't know. A good one to throw back in his face, AFL. Do it, I dare you. All right, we'll wrap things up there. Again, thank you everyone for watching. Ryan, thanks for coming on board. And we'll see you next week with Matto back on board.
Bye.